Joshua, where did you get that stick? Take it outside, please. Guys, can you guys walk around that side? Joshua, take the stick outside, please. Take the stick outside. Joshua, be quiet, please. Is there any popcorn? Please take the stick outside. Joshua, stop saying hey, and stop running across here. Go across the back, please. What are you after? Alright, I'll see what I can do in a minute.
Jason. Do I presume by that you perceive that the horse is animated?
No.
No?
No, let me do the teaching first.
Nothing about it.
No, I'd expect if I said that to start laughing at me.
You have a Trojan Horse there on the walk away with animated, and I said, that's the drawing.
Between a horse and strange animal.
What are you going to do? If you're really lucky, you're going to spend the best.
Between a horse and a dinosaur.
Okay.
If you've got the money, you can whatever you're into.
My childish child observation was like it's just a wooden horse on wheels. That's how that's the way it is. Not like that.
It was a big horse.
Every left, describing that along your experience, there's no guarantee that it wasn't concentrated on where we rode. If you take off built in a decision spot, every single word, focus on. Not every word is in there.
Oh, just shut up and walk.
How was calm?
She wears stuff out. She thinks that she can still move when she can't. And then she goes to I can't stop her. Pull all over and does she had an availability. It's so retired. Anything that wasn't to do away, they were now bothering and doing
Instead of a tape, it was I said 2 tapes a day. What I've been doing, I then have blood producers do 2 acids. So I do lime, and when the limes are too expensive, I do lemon. But I do lemon, tea, honey, and coconut oil in it, and the rest is sort of warm water, or 2 as much as you want.
Yep.
And I just stir that up with it. Laying back with the moisturiser.
I use the oil on my hair. I get put some flakiness like hair in my hair, and always have. And I use it like a very and my hands are right now. I think I have an idea why. I have some chemicals in my shed, and we have some people staying, and he wants all the stuff up the other way of his kids. And this stuff has been up in the attic for a long time. I picked it up, put it up there in the bottom, away from the hands. The UV shot, so I ended up getting red spots on the hands rather than this. Straight out, put the head but I think it's right out because the hand's got it. I probably didn't get enough off the hand. Never had that hand, and that hand gets right on this one. So I I just put the but
They say washing also
Well, welcome back. Yeah, just don't go far. Well, welcome back, everybody. It's good to see everybody today. I was here early today, and it's very lonely when you're here by yourself setting up. You sincerely wonder if anyone's going to show up. I thought, oh, maybe I'll have to do a service just with the kids. But it's always a blessing. I don't take anything for granted. Having people turn up. Where you choose to spend your weekend in this day and age, we've got weekends are many people in this modern age. It's a very, very good thing to do, to be at a place like this. Never ever sell yourself short there. If you come out here, the Heavenly Father is pleased with that. Yeah? Amen. Because you are really, whatever else you could possibly do, and there's plenty of things to do out there in this world of ours, but to come here and present yourself here and be part of a fellowship, to join in the praise and the worship, to talk with one another, and to learn. It's good for your soul. It's good for your soul. It's always good to learn in a group. Today's teaching is called the Trojan Horse, and it is not part 3 of the abomination that makes desolate, but it is a tying up loose ends teaching. It is a teaching that will serve as a companion to the abomination that makes desolate, parts 1 through 6 teachings that I did a few weeks ago. Now, I haven't spoken for a few weeks. We had David do the woman at the well, and we had Sister Ree do her Purim message. So I don't know if you remember the last time I spoke, it was actually on the abomination that makes desolate. And that teaching was met with quite a lot of acceptance. So that's good. That's good. Now, let's get straight into it and let's find out what this is about, because Brother Bruce had just asked me, am I going to imply that the Trojan horse in the Iliad, is it animated? No. I'm not going to be talking about that. I'm not going down that path. But anyway, it's a good call, but no cigar. But let's have a look and find out what we're talking about. Ezekiel 22:25. Open your scriptures to Ezekiel 22:25 and underline, highlight, mark, note, and a note. If you've got an electronic Bible, put a highlight on it, because this is going to be looking at the conspiracy that is already in our midst. The conspiracy that is already in our midst. And whether you choose to believe it or not, you have been a participant in the conspiracy that is already in our midst. I know all of us would like to think that we've got our eyes peeled and we're always on the lookout for these things that are working against the kingdom, and we're informing people of what we know are things that are against the kingdom. But even the very elect are actually part perpetuating part of the problem and aren't really aware that we are really part of the thread that makes up the tapestry of the conspiracy. But by coming here, you are pulling your thread out of the tapestry well and truly. But you could still come along here for a few years and still need to come fully out of that tapestry. Anyway, the verse reads, "There is a conspiracy of her prophets. There is a conspiracy of her prophets in the midst thereof, like a roaring lion ravening the prey. They have devoured souls. They have taken the treasure and precious things." Ezekiel 22:24. In Greek legend, or more to the point, in Greek history, the Trojan horse was a hollow wooden horse constructed by the Greeks to gain entrance into the city of Troy. This was during the 12th century BCE and was part of what's called the Trojan Wars. Despite warnings, the Trojan horse was taken inside the city gates by Trojans who did not realise that Greek warriors were cleverly hidden inside the horse. They then set about celebrating. We have vanquished our enemies. The symbol of our enemies is in our midst as a symbol of having them been conquered. And they had a big party. They drank and they danced and they drank and they danced and they revelled and they revelled and they danced and danced and drank and drank and revelled. Till finally they all were a little bit worse for wear. While they were sleeping and healing, nursing their hangovers and whatever else you get after partying pretty hard. Some of them I'm sure would have had some bruises and bumps. The belly of that great wooden horse opened up, and warriors, Greek warriors, stealthily come out of the belly of that horse, went to the gates of the city where even those that were on the gate were drowsy, revelry, opened the gates and let their comrades in, and then the city was taken. The legendary conflict stirred the imagination of the ancient Greeks more than any other event in history, and is celebrated in Book 2 of the Aeneid and the Odyssey of Homer. Up until 2001, the Trojan War was viewed by many scholars as being a fable, I don't want to use the word myth because we've already worked out that the word myth originally meant ancient story of unclear origin. And when you use the word myth in modern times, it means something that isn't true. But in ancient times, it never meant that. Mythology never meant that. It was just a story about gods and their dealings with men, and was of unclear origin. But it was believed to be a fable, the Trojan Wars, until archaeological evidence was found, both in geological and coastal formations, and corroborated also by Egyptian and Hittite ancient records that these wars actually did take place. So it's not very long ago, mainstream science and mainstream history, ancient history, has accepted that there's any truth to these stories ever having have unfolded at all. So why am I telling you about this? As we go along, you will see. Prophecies in both the Tanakh and the Nazarene writings warn of a conspiracy among the Navi Shechim, the false prophets, who under the direction of Hasatan means the accuser, more specifically the accuser of the brethren. His name is not Hasatan, his name is actually Halal ben Shahar Halal, and he was Yahweh's most beloved angel until he fell and lost his name, and it was relegated to a title, the accuser that stands accusing against the brethren day and night. He is the El of this world. He is the Elohim of this world. He is the prince of the power of the air. And Yahweh has given him rule and dominion over this zimzum, this contraction, this sphere, to an extent. We are involved in part of a universal courtroom drama. And you can read exactly the power that Hasatan has underneath him in Corinthians 4:4 and John 8 and 44, if you want to write that down.
Is that first or second Corinthians?
Good question. You let me know.
Okay.
It was late. Hasatan's greatest attack is to assimilate, is to hijack, is to subvert, is to supplant. He will never attack you directly because weapons formed against you can never prevail. But weapons that you form against yourself, they work just fine. He is an enemy that does not attack by standing on a battlefield, on a big, long, wide open plain, regaled with his battle armour, banging drums, awaiting to march forward to come in and attack you. He attacks us from within. He attacks you from yourself. He attacks you within your family. He attacks you at your place of work. He attacks you as a friend.
Second.
Betrays and attacks his friend.
That's true.
He is not someone that frightens you. He is someone rather that you are familiar with. That's where we get the term familiar spirit. Familiar, family. Family. He's part of your family. He is what you are comfortable with. And what he has done is he has hijacked the faith. Jeremiah 8:8 is one of my favourite verses of all time in the Tanakh. It reads, "How can you say we have chokhmah? How can you say we have wisdom? For we have the Torah of Yahweh, when actually the lying pen of the scribes has handled it falsely." How can you say we have wisdom? How can you say we have the Torah of Yahweh when actually the lying pen of the scribe has handled it falsely? They have taken something that is true and they have twisted it. That's where we get the word wicked from. A wick in a candle is twisted. And then they've thrown it out for the masses. And we've eaten it up. Because it's familiar. I went on a tour of Israel in 2008. And the tour included visiting Gnostic churches and other various ancient churches, and they were beautiful, I tell you. But part of the tour entailed that we would visit mosques. Some of the oldest mosques in the world. The mosque of Muhammad Ali Pasha, one of the biggest mosques in the world. In Egypt. We went there, and we had people in our party that would not go into a mosque. I went in.
I went in too.
And we asked them why. Why won't you go in the mosque? Because it's evil. They just walked into about 20 churches. It's familiar. A mosque isn't familiar. So we go, oh, I don't want to go there, that place is not good. I tell you one thing, you're not going to find an idol in a mosque. There's no idols in a mosque.
Churches were full of
Yet people will walk into you'll have a Nazarene or a Messianic person would walk into a church with a statue of Jesus or a statue of Mary. You're not meant to do that. You're not meant to do that. But it's our biases come from what we're used to, don't they? If we have a Muslim background, you go into a mosque. You go, there's nothing to be scared of here. I'm used to it. It's familiar. And those that deceive us play on such familiarities. Amen. The crowning achievement of the world's greatest literary forgeries is in the replacement of the name of the Son of Yahweh, that is Yeshua or Yahushua. which means Yah is my salvation. And it was replaced, because J is only a very young letter, with the name Zeus or Hazus, which in modern times is pronounced Jesus.
Or in Polish, it's pronounced Jesus.
Jesus, yes.
Jesus. Okay. How did this happen? How did this name, that you know is so central to this faith, get hijacked? When somebody has their credit card stolen, or their information stolen off the internet, they do it, they hijack your identity for a purpose, that is to use your money, your hard-earned money, or to get around the world with your identification. It's happening in the religious world, and it's perpetuated every day. The name Yeshua is not an uncommon name in Judaism, and it is as common as, I guess, the name John or Tom is in the Western world, and it has been the case in Second Temple era Judaism all the way up into modern Judaism. There are variants on the name Yeshua, as there are variants on the name David and other Jewish names. Yeshua ben Nun, all of you will know him as Joshua, who led the children of Israel into the promised land, is the same name as our Messiah. It's the same name. So when you pick up a Bible and you're reading about Joshua, we're going to be reading about him probably in the next few weeks, it's the same name. His name was originally Hosea, which means salvation. And to protect him, Moshe changed his name from Hosea to Yahushua, which is Yah is my salvation. So his name got changed, didn't it? It got altered, it got amended. It didn't get changed, it got expanded, if you like Abraham. Avram to Abraham. Sarai to Sarah.
Sign of the covenant.
Sign of the covenant. I hear this voice, I can't see David. Who's speaking? So, where does Jesus or Jesus come from? Well, according to Strong's, section 5483, the word Zeus, Ha is the in Hebrew. The word Zeus means horse. It means horse. And Susim is horses. Come and see my Susim. All of you are going to receive, Danny's going to like this, all of you are going to receive angelic Susim when the time comes. All of you. All of us will receive angelic Susim when the time. That's why I like watching those Harry Potter movies, because you can see it's largely nonsense. But then if you know what to look for, you go, oh, yeah, cool, that's, yeah. Because as we're going, we can see the enemy is starting to regale itself in angelic attire. It's wrong, it's worn slightly askew, but you can still spot things. No other biblical character, or I shouldn't say that because it makes you think of a comic. No other individual in Scripture has been attacked and abused and debased so much by translators as King Messiah Yeshua. No other individual. No, John, Shimon, Kiva, all the other people you read about, their names are not twisted and hammered so out of shape as much as Yeshua's. Where did this name come from? Why is it the same name applied to Joshua? Why is it the same name of Jesus applied to Jason, who we read about briefly in the Nazarene writings that helps Shaul when a mob come to kill him and he allows him to use his house as refuge? His name is preserved as Jason. Joshua's name is Joshua. Yeshua's name is Jesus. And Yeshayahu, which is a variant of Yeshua, is Isaiah. For some reason, our main focal point loses his name entirely. Loses his name entirely and receives the name of a horse. Now, as you can see here, if I move, we have the evolution of the name of Yeshua to Jesus in English. So it starts in Hebrew, and then when we get to Greek, we've got a problem. So we've just gone one step, now we've got a problem. Jesus. 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 And we're going to find out what that means in Greek. And then we have in Latin, Eosus, thank you. I can't be able to see that. Eosus. And in Latin, guess what? It means something. And then we have finally in Jesus, in English. Well, Jesus means Jesus, I guess. In English. Before we go any further, we need to have a look at the letter J, don't we? We need to talk about the letter J. The letter J is a variant of the letter I. Although there's no J in the Latin alphabet, although there was originally no J in Latin or Greek either.
That's right.
Not just in Hebrew, there was no J anywhere. J is the Johnny come lately letter. Johnny come lately. I love that song. It didn't come into circulation until sometime later after these three languages were well established through history.
About 1630.
It came about by pronouncing the Y or the I with a harder sound by touching the roof of the mouth with the top of the tongue, similar to saying G as in cheese. The distinctive usage of the letter. Who was responsible for it? Yes, we can pin it down to one bloke. He's a German. It first emerges in Middle High German. Gian Giorgio Trissino from 1478 to 1550 was the first to explicitly distinguish the I and the J as presenting separate sounds in his epistle, his letters that he wrote, speaking about additions to the Italian dialect in 1524. The translator of the New English translation of the Bible, many of you know William Tyndale, introduced the already wayward translation of Jesus as Jesus. The 1611 King James, the original 1611 King James, though it was sometime later, refrained from the J, and you won't find a J anywhere in the 1611 King James Bible. The Jesus, you'll find an I or a Y sound, not an Y for that same sound in that translation.
I think it turned up in the edition of 1776 as Jesus.
Richard says an edition in 1776. There's arguments to say that the letter's older than about 500 years old, which I've read, and they're good. But whatever the case, everybody agrees on the fact that this letter was plucked out of the air by taking an already existing letter and bringing new nuance to it. Why? Because Hasatan, he wanted the name not only to be false, he wanted it to be actually made by falsehood, made with falsehood. My name, Jason, would be Yason. John. So he wanted to construct something that in this new name that even the very fabric of it has no substance. He wants to completely take away all the power out of that name. And he's done a good job. And a lot of people have gone, okay, yeah, let's do this. The form of the J was unknown in any alphabet until the 14th century. Can I just say something? The name Jesus never existed 400 years ago. And you watch people on these evangelistic shows, and you watch them say the name of Jesus, and there's tears streaming down their face, and they, Jesus! And I'm not ridiculing them. Please don't think I'm ridiculing them. I'm not. You look at the sincerity in their heart, and they might as well be saying tea towel. In fact, if they were to say tea towel, you're going to find out in a minute they'd be much better off.
You said the name of Joshua. hold the knees
Yeah,
and bow. That'd be
and
more
I've said,
accurate.
you guys have heard me say it before.
Yeah.
If you really love the letter J, then there's no problem. Say Joshua.
It's
If
more
you want
accurate.
to stay in your church, that's up to you. I'd rather you didn't. But if you want to use the name and you want to say Joshua, but you're going to be saying Joshua, or somebody's going to be saying Jesus. Or the majority of the other people are going to be saying Jesus. They'll bounce you out eventually. Politely, they'll ask you to leave, and then if you won't go politely, they'll get the man at arms to show you the door. Either symbol J or I used initially generally have the consonantal sound of Y as in year. Gradually, the two symbols J and I were differentiated, the J usually acquiring consonantal force and thus became regarded as a consonant, and I became a vowel. It was not until the 1630 that the differential became general in England, according to the Encyclopedia Americana. Now, we just did a teaching when we got here on the power of speech. Hasatan knows that there is life and death in the tongue. There is life and death in the tongue. Everything negatively we say to each other will eventually contribute to that person dying, and you dying, and the listener dying as well. Any word of encouragement or uplifting we say to somebody or something, then it gives life to that thing, life to the person that heard it, and life to you. So life and death are in the power of the tongue according to Proverbs 18:21. So what does Hasatan do first? He wants to attack speech, communication. His first attack in Gan Eden with Hava was one of Lashon Hara, evil speech. Speech is the weapon. Speech is the weapon. He knows that the speech we adopt, if we're obedient to Yahweh, is like a two-edged sword. This is why when Yeshua comes back, from out of his mouth, his tongue will be like a two-edged sword. Remember what happened when he was descended upon by the temple police in Gethsemane and by the guards. There were, I don't know who was there. There were some guards, temple police. It was a mob.
Yeah.
And he said something, didn't he? And what happened to them?
It all fell down.
Yeah. What else? They're facing the other way. And they come to, and they did get him, and they did a number on him, didn't they? They blindfolded him, punched him in the face, put a crown of thorns on his head, whipped him, scourged him. But he still had power, he still had authority. They all must have felt a bit funny, all having to get back up to their feet and dust themselves off and pick up their torches and their whatever they had with them, and then kind of go on like nothing happened. I'll tell you what, if I went up to a person and he said something, I am. That's what he said, I am. And I fell down along with everybody with me, and we somehow, as we fell, we were facing away from him. I'd be like, hey, there's something, stay away from this guy. And that's why he almost has to encourage Yehuda, Judas, to continue with his deed. Because he'd already kissed him, and then Yehuda's kind of backing off. And he's going, come on! It's like a bad school play. He's encouraging him with the next line. Why? Because Yeshua just wanted prophecy to be fulfilled to the letter. Even if it meant he had to coach his own captors to do what was meant to happen. Isn't that amazing? It's amazing to me. If one cannot communicate, one cannot cry out for help. Imagine you go for a swim and you drift outside the flags at the beach and you're not able to wave back to shore for help. No matter what, you're not allowed to wave. At the very least, it robs us of being able to make the right utterances to connect with the Heavenly Father by thwarting the language. Isaiah stands before Yahweh Almighty I am a man of unclean lips, and I dwell amongst the people of unclean lips. And Yahweh has to purify his mouth, doesn't he? All this emphasis. I love looking at this subject at the moment. Looking at the pay. Looking at Lashon. Looking at the tongue. Looking at the power. And Yahweh is opening up all these things to us. These are revelations. Grab a hold of them. Tell your friends. Tell your family. It couldn't come at a better time for me, I'll tell you right now. It's going to save you. It is saving you. Romans 10:13, quoting from Joel 2:32. Everyone who calls on the name of Yahweh will be saved. Why do we say the name Yahweh? Because the majority of Hebrew scholars agree that the pronunciation is Yahweh. That's it. I spoke to a guy on the phone. He's saying, what do you believe the pronunciation is? And I said, this is all I've got for you. The majority of Hebrew scholars believe it's Yahweh. Not the three thing, Yahuwah. It's two. It's in, breathing out. That's all I've got for you. If you're alright, well then I'll apologise to you on the other side of the bar. But that's pretty good to go on. Because those guys know better than I do. But if you're saying Yahuwah, I don't want to upset anybody, at least you're giving it a go. Good on you. It's better than saying God, isn't it?
No.
Good on you. Somebody gives it a go. If someone says Jehovah, it's like saying Joshua. Good. I'll encourage it. They're giving it a go, aren't they? Amen. Yeshua is the stone you builders rejected, which has become the cornerstone. Salvation is found in no one else, for there is no other name under heaven given to mankind by which you must be saved. And I'm going to stop using that red font because you can barely see it. I'm sure the people in the broadcast can barely see that. But that's from Acts 4, verses 11 to 12. What does it say? For there is no other name under heaven given to mankind by which we must be saved. Hasatan, if he was an angel, if he was Yah's most beloved angel, he's going to know his word like it's his very part of his fabric. So if an enemy knows the word, then he's going to know it better than you, and he knows what to rob you of and what to be most effective in that robbery. He knows no limits. At the end of Yeshua's 40-day and 40-night fast, at the end of his fast when he was still in bodily form, weakened from his fast, Hasatan even comes to him and even tries to buy him off. So his supplanting of the kingdom knows no bounds. He'll even try and deceive the son of Yahweh. Imagine if he'd have done it. Because he was in a body. That means he's in a weakened state because he had a Yetzer Hara and a Yetzer Tov. So Yahweh puts down a portion from his bosom, his foremost part of his form, in a tangible form, and Hasatan tries to buy it off, tries to make a deal with Yahweh. So if he's got the chutzpah to do that, you're not a problem. So don't think that you can't be deceived because you can. Don't get smug just because you're coming here or you know where to look on the internet. Fear Yahweh with awe and with dread and walk humbly, and these things won't depart from you. It won't just be head knowledge, it'll be heart knowledge, and that's what you want. You want heart knowledge. Because I know how deeply regretful you are after you sin. You want to lessen those times where we're weakened in sin, and we want to increase those times where we're walking from glory to glory. Amen. In Latin, should have started with the Greek first. Too bad. In Latin, Zeus means pig or swine. That's a dictionary definition there. Akin to swine. In Latin, sus or sow. The domestic pig is a Zus scrofa domesticus or Zus domesticus or Zus scrofa domesticus. Let's have a look at the Latin Vulgate, shall we? Leviticus 11:7. Let's get into some Latin. Et Zus qui cum ungulam dividat nun ruminat. And that is translated. And the swine, and there's a little bit there, he is unclean to you, according to the King James Version. Now let's have a look at Philippians 2:11. By two or three witnesses, any truth shall be established. Imnis lingua confitetur cor Dominus Jesus. Philippians 2:11 translated as every tongue shall confess that Jesus or Jesus, i.e. the swine, is Adonai.
Oh, that's terrible.
In Greek, I'll switch these slides around if I can do this lesson again. In Greek, Jesus means Hail Zeus. It is known that the Greek name ending with Zeus or Zeus or Saus were attached by the Greeks to names and geographical areas as means to give honour to their supreme deity Zeus. The Dictionary of Christian Law and Legend, Professor J.C.J. Medford. So, Michael, all the angels' names end with L, most of them.
Michael,
Raphael, Uriel. And so, like I keep saying, the enemy is jealous. He wants a house similar to the one that you can see across the road, your house. He wants to have your nicely trimmed grass, your garden, your furniture. So he tries to copy. And so in the Greek world, anything with divinity, they're trying to get to push on divinity to you, they'll end it with Zas or Zeus or Zaus. Okay, again to the Hebrew. And in Hebrew, Jesus means the horse. Let's have a look at this. This is interesting. In Judaism, the horse is perceived as being inherently strong, but the strength is not coupled with reason, and therefore has to be guided or even forced into correct behaviour. So a horse is a symbol of unbridled strength. This latter fact is underlined in the Nazarene writings. Ultimately, a horse is viewed as completely inadequate. The Jews were forbidden from multiplying them, and the believer is urged to trust in Yahweh instead of them, according to Isaiah 16, 31 and verses 1 and 3. In fact, Isaiah later castigated the Jews for reliance upon horses rather than upon Elohim. In fact, he also underlines the fault of the horse. It does not have a spirit. We therefore see the horse as a reservoir of strength that is only as good as the rider upon it. The truth is that in Greek it means Hail Zeus. In Latin it means the pig. And in Hebrew it means the horse. And every time someone invokes the name Jesus, they invoke idolatry, they invoke uncleanness, and they invoke war. Every time they invoke idolatry, they invoke uncleanness, and they invite war upon themselves. So we're going to be very careful. Very careful. A harmless trip back to your old church, you might think it's harmless. In fact, the more harmless you think it is, the more danger you are in. If you go back with a list of bit of trepidation and pray up, you might be alright. The horse is often interpreted as a symbol of war. Unger's Bible Dictionary states on page 500, horse is figurative on account of the strength of the horse. He has become the symbol of war. Deuteronomy 32:13, Psalm, Zechariah, and there's all the verse references in Zechariah if you're taking notes. It is a symbol of war and conquest. The war horse rushing into battle is figurative of the impetuosity of the wicked in sin, according to Jeremiah 8 and 6. What does Psalm 33:17 say? It says, Jesus is a vain hope for safety. So what is it? In other words, what is it saying? Genesis, it's saying Jesus is a vain hope for safety. That's pretty confronting. It's not something you share with a lot of your friends.
No.
An ancient graffiti was found in Rome on Palatine Hill. Now it resides in the Palatine Antiquarian Museum, and it is of an image depicting a donkey or a horse, a man with a donkey or horse's head on a crucifix being worshipped by a Christian man being called Alexamenos, and it's mocking him. And the Greek says Alexamenos worships his God. It's interesting, isn't it? And it makes you wonder how much the enemy, people that don't want to do our thing, know exactly what we're doing. There are people out there that aren't a part of Christianity because they know it's a fraud. And that gives them comfort in their sin, their life of sin that they're leading. They go, that's wrong. The more upwardly mobile we get as a community, ladies and gentlemen, the more we're going to give, the less excuse we give Christianity of their ignorance. And the less we give the excuse of ignorance of the man on the street. The best thing we can do, find a fellowship that you fall in love with and commit to the fellowship and help out.
Stop wandering around.
Because a lot of the people that are wandering around, if I got all the people that are floating around that I know about are floating around Messianic communities, all of them would just settle somewhere tomorrow, we will have the community that they're looking for today. We'll have more than one person, one adult looking after the kids. Where are the kids right now? I don't know. I don't know where my kids are. Somewhere. We'll have Hebrew classes through the week. Somebody's bound to know Hebrew to be able to teach it. We'll have women's classes teaching on women's issues. We'll have men's classes teaching on much needed men's issues. Men, we need to talk. There's things we need to talk about. You want to be blessed? We need to talk. We need to pray. Just the men. You women can go and do your women thing. We're going to do a guy thing.
Blokey stuff.
In the computer realm, you've heard of the Trojan Horse. Who's had a Trojan? I have.
Yes.
Yeah. And it's not good, is it?
No.
It puts malware on your computer and it ruins your day and you've got stuff to do and you've got to go to bed and you now got to go to the computer shop and shell out cash to get it fixed. It just really ruins your day, doesn't it? And it ruins your entire system, and you have a crack at it yourself and you make things worse trying to get rid of the thing. It just affects everything. It's the same with what's happened with the one true faith of Yahweh. Somebody at some point in history has inserted a Trojan, and it's malware all the way through the system. And we are that Norton's McAfee doctor. You know, where the McAfee and that's what we are, that's what we are.
Actually, the Ruach HaKodesh
We're conduits.
is
Yeah, but the Ruach HaKodesh ain't going to do nothing unless we're around.
No, but the thing is, you have an inspiration from and then the correction.
Don't interrupt.
No, it's all right. But I hear what you say. By the 2nd century after Messiah ascended, pagan heresies, rituals and doctrines, as Rabbi Shaul had warned about in his letter to the Galatians, and as recorded in the book of Acts, began to overtake the preaching of the true full messianic message of the kingdom and the practice of the true faith. Thank you, Simon Magus. Thank you, Emperor Constantine.
Thank you, Ignatius.
Thank you, Ignatius of Antioch. Well, who are these people? Who are these people? These are the authors of Christianity, ladies and gentlemen. I'm astonished that you are so quickly deserting the one who called you by the grace of Messiah and are turning to a different message, which is really no message at all. Evidently, some people are throwing you into confusion and are trying to pervert the full messianic message of Messiah Yeshua. But even if we or an angel from heaven should preach a message other than the one we preach to you, let him be eternally condemned. Galatians 1, 6 and 8. And you thought Galatians was a book you're going to read your mum. There's some heavy stuff in Galatians. I know that after I leave, savage wolves will come in among you and will not spare the flock. Acts 20 and 29. There's savage wolves prowling around everywhere. I get to screen them on the phone when they ring me. I had one not too long ago. Andrew, okay, all the best with where you end up going. Saves me a lot of heartache, saves you a lot of heartache. But I'm so glad that people are ringing me before they come. Yeah? Because I can get to chat with them, see where they're at. And you just let the person talk. I find that the more you let a person talk, the more you find out where the person's at. Little by little at first in stealth and silence, and then more openly, as it is increasing in strength and gain control of the minds of men. The mystery of iniquity, according to 2 Thessalonians 2:7, carried forward its deceptive and blasphemous work. The mystery of iniquity. Mystery Babylon. Do not learn the way of the heathen, Jeremiah 10:2. Do not learn. We have to unlearn what we've learned. And we have to relearn. And we're so happy with what we learned that it's home for us. It's hard to learn something new. A lot of you are daunted by the Hebrew language. And are daunted by other things. Oh, I don't know if I can wash my hands as soon as I get up every morning. Besides, it's not obviously in the Torah. I don't know if I can do that. Learn it. Look at it if it is good, even if it's a tradition. Even if it's a tradition. I know you've got traditionophobia because you come from a church, all of it was man-made tradition and falsehood. But look at the tradition, turn it around and see if it's okay before you throw it away. For a certain man whose condemnation was written about long ago have secretly slipped in among you. They are godless men who changed the grace of Yahweh into a license for immorality and deny Messiah Yeshua, our only sovereign and king. If you're going to get into something that's going to hamper your message in any way, don't get into it. If you're going to get into something that will enhance your message, the full messianic message of the kingdom, then consider bringing it on, taking it on. In no way, shape or form is practicing polygamy going to help you spread the full messianic message of the scriptures. It'll retard your effectiveness, you'll become a leper, and you'll get frustrated as to why nobody wants to go near you. I will not have a polygamist in this four walls, because if I do, my daughter is fair game. If you want to practice polygamy, here's one little thing. Your wife has to be keener on it than you. Find me a wife that's keener on it than any man. If your wife is truly, and she's not mad, then we might be able to have a chat. Do you remember Sarah?
Yeah.
Abraham's wife. And that's just the start of it. Don't use your position and your knowledge of influence to sate the desires that you've been holding at bay for all your religious life. Keep fighting. You come so close to the finish line and you're hanging out with uncleanness. Come back.
Amen.
Come back, gosh. They are godless men who changed the grace of Yahweh into a license of immorality. Let's skip that bit, I read that already. Though you already know all this, I want to remind you that Yahweh delivered his people out of Mitzrayim, but later destroyed those who did not believe. And the angels who did not keep their positions of authority but abandoned their first estate. Why did they abandon their first estate? Because they liked the look of earthly women, didn't they?
Mm-hmm.
These he has kept in darkness, bound with everlasting chains for judgment on the great day, according to Jude 1, 4 and 6. Most of mankind has accepted the Trojan horse, hook, line, and sinker. You're a strange person. You make people feel uncomfortable.
Oh, yes.
You don't fit.
No.
You're a misfit. What you say is confronting. What you do, I don't like it. It looks Jewish. You are strange and you are peculiar. At the moment, what you're doing is looked upon by the world at large as a badge of shame. I won't lie. But when Yahweh is sifting the goats from the sheep, when that time comes, and it is going to come, you are going to be so glad you did this. You're going to be so glad you kept the Sabbath. You're going to be so glad you wore a talit. You're going to be so glad you wore a kippah. You're going to be so glad you wore a head covering. You're going to be so glad you proclaimed the full message, used the names. You're going to be so glad. And there are going to be people pointing the finger at you. She never told me. If she'd have told me, I would have listened to her. You're going to have family members coming past. It's your fault. They're going to be accusing you. You never told me. You never told me. The house is on fire. Who are you going to tell? Who are you going to gather? Not everybody wants to hear the message. It's heartbreaking. Turn on Christian evangelistic TV and see the thousands and multitudes of people praising the name of Jesus on the venerable day of the sun. There's not one head covered in that house, unless they've got a baseball cap on.
Pork rolls in the canteen.
You know, we read the Torah portion today, and Moshe said that it sounds like war. But Yahweh says, no, it's revelry. You watch Hillsong, and they're reveling to your ears, it will begin to sound like war. We're invoking three things, remember? We're invoking idolatry, we're invoking cleanness, and we're invoking war. Many reject the numbering system applied to the Hebraic language called gematria because of its alleged conception Babylon during Israel's captivity. But why criticise a revelation just because it was given in the diaspora? It's crazy. I don't know when gematria became a widespread thing that was studied in ancient Judaism. Could have been the Garden of Eden for all I know. But why pick on it just because it became... You know what? People pick on the Babylonian Talmud. Why? Because it's called the Babylonian Talmud. And the Babylonian Talmud is actually better than the Jerusalem Talmud. Because the Jerusalem Talmud is the first one. The Babylonian Talmud is the one that's expanded on it even bigger than the Jerusalem one. So if you're going to start buying the Talmud, Danny, you get the Babylonian Talmud, you don't get the Jerusalem one. Unless you want to have that one as well.
And also they were with Babylon when they were being persecuted, so a lot of food in
Yeah. When you're being persecuted, when you're in captivity, it brings a contriteness in your heart, a humbleness, a humility. Remember when we sing By the Rivers of Babylon? It's meant to cleanse you when you sing that song and recite that psalm. Because you go, wow, man, this is where everything's got me. Whoa. Whatever the case, it's tight alignment with Scripture. Talking about gematria, it's tight alignment with Scripture, and the patterns it produces in revealing more revelation is indisputable. The author of the Book of Revelations even cites its use in revealing the identity of the Mashiach, the negative Messiah. Remember, last time I was teaching, we looked at the word emet, and the last letter is a tav. And the last letter is a signature or a sign. It's the last letter of the alphabet because it's Yahweh's signature. Who likes to draw? Who likes to do artwork? Who's ever done a painting or an illustration and somebody says, "You should sign that. It's really good." That's the last thing to do. That's the last touch of the paper that you've had. Your signature. And so it's Yahweh's signature, the Tav. What type of a mark did Cain have on his forehead? A Tav, because it was Yahweh's signature, a sign, a mark. And the word emet, we've got the word emet here in the golem, and the abomination makes desolate, which animates the idol. And all his followers received a Tav, which we know is made up of 3 Vavs. A Vav's numerical equivalent is 666. And added up together equals 18, which is the same numerical value for Chai, for life. So we learned that. Hope you haven't forgotten it. We learned that the Hebrew word upon the forehead of the abomination that makes desolate, the golem, is emet, finishes with a tav, Yah's signature or mark, but the very letter itself is made up of 3 Vavs. That's everything I just said. There you go. Added to that, there's still more. The Tav in Paleo Hebrew is a cross. So it'll probably be the Paleo Hebrew form to really cement you as being a follower of Jesus by having the cross as X marks the spot. Now we know in times past that the Tav was given to people to preserve their lives, but it's also given to kill them. That's why, and you'll call me a hypocrite in the next slide, but I'll explain myself. That's why 666, or the number 6, shouldn't be viewed as an evil number. Or the Tav, the mark, shouldn't be viewed as something evil. Hey, you have to be paying attention and know when this letter is to be applied to have your life preserved or your life taken away from you. Because it'll be too easy if I give you something that if I put this on, you'll die. And then you go, I'm always staying away from that, so I don't have to pay attention. But if it's something that is just a mark for something I might decide to do, then you have to pay attention. When is it good for me to wear it? When is it bad for me to wear it? So there's that sense we have to keep paying attention to find out. Can you imagine in Ezekiel, if you weren't wearing the mark, you'd be dead. And in time to come, if you're wearing the mark, you're in lots of trouble. You're dead. So, in Hebrew, the name of Yeshua, as commandeered by the Greeks, the Greco-Roman interpretation is Jesus. Jesus. Made up of a Hey, Summit, a Vav, and a Summit. Okay. Is everybody okay with it? Everybody understood what we've looked at? We're about to finish. The numerical value of horse. Summit is a 60, Vav is a 6, and Summit is a 60. There is no other letter in the Hebrew language which carries this succession of 6s. And Gematria, the way it works, is there's different ways of combining and adding numbers. One way is to the numbers that are worth nothing, to remove them. That's my teaching today. Okay. Yes.
I'd like to say something about that.
Yes. Would you like mine?
Yeah.
Thanks, Jason. It's coming through there.
It's working.
I'd just like to say something about the whole, what we've just done today. I think it's absolutely brilliant. Because Ree and I, we were talking the other day that we've been 4 years now in this walk.
Yep.
Now, prior to that, probably for about 2 years, we were on our own, not really having nowhere to go.
It's alright, you're not in state.
For about 6 months, we really didn't have anywhere to go. We came, although we stopped going to church at that point, and we were praying and asking Yahweh, asking Jesus, God, as we understood him to be, for truth. And we sincerely, in our lounge room, asked Jesus or God for truth. Right? That's what we want. We don't want any fake, any hype or anything like that. We just want truth of His Word, and that's what we said. And the very, very first thing He did, He introduced us to His name, Yahweh Elohim, and His Son's name is Yeshua. That's the very first thing that we learned and understood. So we were shown, and it was revealed to us, the Trojan Horse that we had been involved with.
Yeah.
And we came out of Babylon. And there's nothing really that would cause me to want to go back.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, if you were given money, you would go back. You know, if you were given whatever. So, well, I can't go back. You could probably go back, but your heart wouldn't be in it. Because what I found is when I visited church, as I started to get the message, I found that every single moment, some visits, I would just get tipped. I'd just go, whoa, whoa, whoa. And I felt so alone. And here, it's only a small group. And we're all different. We're all different ages. We do different jobs. And we're all different. We're all got strengths in different areas. But I feel connected with people here that are walking this walk, surprise, surprise. And it's family. It's not a, you know what I mean? When I was in Christianity, there was something I could never put a finger on, but I was unsettled about something. I don't know whether it was because everybody seemed more righteous than me, and I just thought, oh, maybe I don't get it today, but maybe tomorrow. And the truth is, you will live your life going insane trying to follow Christianity. It'll turn you mad trying to do it. Or you'll just go, I'll look good, but I'll kind of do what I want, and you can kind of do that. You can keep doing that till you die, you know. And I think that's what sort of most people do. They put on a bit of a show, and they say stuff, and it's not really cutting to the heart of anything, you know.
Well, the first thing Yahweh showed us was His name, and then He showed us and introduced us to His Torah. And I tell you, we were so conditioned by what we had learned in Christianity. We were so, it was a deception, but we were so taken up with the propaganda that when we started to learn about Torah, it almost freaked us out.
Yeah.
Because, you know, and then we started to get into the Word and understand what the Word was saying from the original scriptures. Right? And you start to learn how, as you mentioned earlier in the piece, about how the scriptures are tweaked to suit the doctrines that they were promoting and creating. And when you go back to the original, they're not there.
Yeah.
And I really thank Yahweh for that.
Thanks for sharing.
Jason,
Oh, sorry.
it's interesting. It's worth knowing.
Okay. Yep.
Oh,
No.
it's worth knowing that a very well-known Messianic teacher teaches that the two false messiahs that will appear will be called Jesus. And he says that the first Jesus will appear as the Islamic Caliphate.
Yeah, well, remember in Islam, you can see that, we looked at it when I was teaching last, that 666, the Paleo Hebrew looks like the Islamic letters, the Hebraic, the Arabic letters for Hail Allah or something. Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah.
So after the Islamic Caliphate is killed, then the real Jesus, this is according to him, he knows his stuff, and we know this Messianic teacher very well. The real Jesus will appear after that, and then there'll be Mashiach again. So according to him, the title Jesus will be used on both accounts. And why Jesus? Because the whole world knows that name.
Yeah, absolutely. The halibut sailing across the...
Thanks for that teaching, Brother Jay. I just had two questions we can discuss as a group. idols, not to make idols. But if we come and we have a menorah, we have the symbols on the fabric, are we partaking in idolatry? That's question one.
Yeah, that's a great question. That's an awesome question. I just had a guy that I had a discussion with that I've known on the internet for quite a while, Messianic, and he's got a real bee in his bonnet about graven images and about idols. And he's very strict on idols. Unless it's specifically the things that are constructed for the Mishkan, he's not real au fait with having anything. He had a Star Wars figure collection, he got rid of that. I had a Star Wars figure collection, I got rid of that, but it was for different reasons. They were owning me, I wasn't owning them. And he's very much against any form of idolatry in the form of an image or an idol. Now, in terms of having no graven images under heaven or on earth, the Jewish exegesis of that is, what is the idol for? Now, if it's a teddy bear designed to give comfort to a child, it is about the purpose of what that idol is. It is permissible. A teddy bear is permissible. Now, if it's the design of a structure that is made by an architect to see where he is going to go with the building, you know, when you go and you look at you do some negative gearing and you go to real estate and there'll be a market and it'll have these new block of units that are coming up and they're like about 1/32 scale, you know, models. They've got cars and things. You've seen them, Danny, when you go into a real estate place or you're on holidays or whatever. What is the purpose and the function? It is for the construction of a building. Even the Mishkan itself was planned on paper, was actually physically planned out. Now, when you're preparing for war, you'll have strategists and generals stand around a table. There's a representation of the battlefield. What is the purpose? It's for waging war. Now, and this sunk my friend's ship. I didn't hear back from him after this. I said, I've been to Jerusalem. I've been to the Wailing Wall. And I've been into the rabbi tunnels. And in the rabbi tunnels, less than 20 metres, maybe 50 metres tops, from the Wailing Wall itself, is a 1/72 scale model of the Beit HaMikdash. And they light it up and it looks fantastic. If you go back, probably about 200-300 metres from the Wailing Wall, maybe 400 metres, and you go back up into the urban sprawl part, you'll find a shop called the Temple Institute. I shouldn't call it a shop, more like a museum. It is called the Temple Institute. And you go inside this place and you can see all the furniture and all the garments and everything that is going to regale the third temple. They've already got everything done. They've got the plate across the forehead. They've got the breastplate, the priestly garments, the showbread table, the laver. Everything is going and it's ready to go and it's under glass. Now, the thing that strikes you when you first go in there, the high priest's garments are on display, so are the priests and the Levites' garments. Guess what? They're all hanging off mannequins. And the mannequin even has a beard. They've even put a beard on the mannequin. What's the purpose?
Very Jewish.
What's the purpose? For educational. That's why when somebody sent around on Facebook a video of ISIS smashing statues in an ancient museum somewhere in the Middle East.
Mosul.
Where?
Mosul.
Mosul. Is that the place? I was mortified by it. And this person that posted said, oh, it's good to see the ISIS guys actually doing some good. And they were going around a museum with priceless statues, smashing them to pieces like animals. And I didn't like it. Not because I'm into idolatry. I hate idolatry. But it's history. Exactly. But Danny, some people, when they read that commandment, you shall make no graven image. And I must say, it's pretty straightforward. And to draw the conclusions which you've sort of alluded to in your question, you can't be criticised for that. It's pretty, in English it's pretty plain. But I'm going on the scripture and the people that have lived out that scripture for the generations, and that is the Jews. They've lived what, 3,000 years? They've kept the Torah, however legalistically, and whatever they've done wrong during the ages. They're still a people, they're still what they always were. And so I'll stick with their exegesis rather than anyone else's pet exegesis. I've got a particular thing against idols, that's fine. But you turn up to somebody's house, and if that child has a teddy bear, then you need to tear that teddy bear off the child and peg it out the window. If you're gonna, do you know what I mean? So it comes down to what the purpose is, what the function is. Now, next question, and I know you can ask. How is the cherubim, how is that permissible? The cherubim over the ark? How is the cherubim woven into the curtains, dividing the holy place from the most holy place? How is that permissible? How is, in Solomon's temple, how is the statues of the ox that were outside, how were they permissible? But what's their function? Is it for worship? Is it to receive worship? I've got in my room, I've got a mannequin with a stormtrooper outfit on it. I asked my friend who's got a Venus bonnet about and he says, oh, keep the stormtrooper suit, let go of mannequins. And that's what I said. In the Temple Institute, you walk in, there's about 6 mannequins. The mannequins are the places you walk in there. What is the purpose? Is it to worship? No, you just got to look at the purpose. However, having said that, Danny, this age, the Achilles heel is not idolatry. You ready? It's sexual immorality. So when you read the scriptures, and this is why the scriptures seems archaic sometimes, because you read about so much aversion to idolatry. Because in the time of the scriptures were written in the various ages, idolatry had taken such an enticement over the people of Israel that it was on par, even superseding sexual immorality. But in the age that we live in now, because the rabbis, they say, prayed so much that the iniquity of idolatry would depart from Yahweh's people, Yahweh heeded their prayers and he removed that temptation. But now it's jumped onto sexual immorality. I'm not making that up. You can read about that or hear about that being spoken by the rabbis.
Tel Aviv, the gay capital of Israel.
Tel Aviv, the gay capital of Israel, yeah. So when somebody has an idol, or if it's an action figure or a doll, the demons behind that don't have the bite that they once had. Why? Because the rabbis of a certain generation prayed so hard that it be removed, and Yahweh answered that. But you know what happens? When you have a snake in a basket, and you put the lid on the snake, and the snake's trying to get out of the lid, but you won't move the lid, the snake pops out the side of the basket. And that's what's happening. The snake's popped outside the basket.
I want to put that PowerPoint on again, that's all right. You go back about 3 slides.
Yep.
So it's a context statement, basically.
Yep.
So remove that guy from the start.
Oh, I believe, and it's not an opinion, it's what I've looked at. But you know, hey, so I accept some people have a pet problem with graven images. There are, like, I'll give you an example. I spoke to a guy this week, and he won't come to this fellowship because we have alcohol here. He will not come to the fellowship because we have alcohol here. He was an alcoholic. Somebody who smoked who got cancer, and then they beat the cancer. If they see somebody smoking, they're going to have a fit. If they beat the cancer, if the cancer was caused by their smoking, they're going to have a fit. So that I understand that, but at the end of the day, when we have a conversation, we have to just sort of go, okay, cool, I'm okay with what I'm doing. But listen, if you come, I'll try not to make you stumble, and I'll do what I can. Now, in terms of the alcohol, how much of a feature has this alcohol played in the service today? None. If I wanted to, I could have even put it there, and no one would have been the wiser. It's easy for me to just go and put this over to the side, and that individual who won't come because there's alcohol here, he could have left by now. And then we can bless the Lord. It's amazing. See where your hang-ups are. Find out why you got the hang-ups, and maybe you might be able to kind of kick it. I mean, it's interesting.
The one with the fallen angels, Jason.
This one?
No,
That one?
keep on going back. Yeah. Keep going back. Yeah. We'll go forward one.
Forward one?
Question.
I'll keep going, you tell me to stop.
What do you go for? It's about three or four from the end. Keep on going. Well, what I was going to say, we were talking about the fallen angels.
Oh, yeah.
And they
that's
came
in
down
Jude.
late with the women.
Yeah.
So, my question there is,
Here it is.
that's what I want to get. Abandoning their first estate.
Yeah.
So with those 200 fallen angels,
Yes.
you didn't seem to figure out who their leader was. Was it Satan? And if it was Satan, then why isn't he banned? Never asked him to change.
My understanding,
I
my understanding is it was Samael.
Some
Yes. Now there's rank and hierarchy. There's rank and hierarchy in the dark realm with the dark forces, as there is rank and hierarchy with the angelic host. I'm up here and I'm meant to be the leader. David's next in charge. And then from there we go down to Bruce and get a Giordano, and then we can probably work out who even after there would be the next line of authority, because there's a line of authority. And so that's why in the Garden of Eden, it wasn't actually Hasatan. Many commentaries won't say that it was exactly Hasatan possessing a snake, but it was the spirit of Hasatan. It was the spirit of the accuser on the snake and the spirit of the accuser in Samael. That's why the scapegoat goes to Samael. Yeah? On Yom Kippur. I hope I answered that.
Well,
and you know what? I could be wrong.
Maybe Satan knew that this would really provoke our Yah, and so whilst he encouraged Samael, and the other angels, he kept his clear of that because he knew he had other work to do. He didn't partake in that maintenance, perhaps.
So from what I understand, the Watchers, they were originally ordained as playing a role with mankind's formation and evolution. And certain angels that were Watchers, given the job of being a Watcher, they were gifted in certain areas. Some were gifted in the areas of metallurgy. Some were gifted in the areas of astrology. Some were gifted in the areas of just anything and everything, mathematics, say. And so what happened was, as mankind, because back then we were very, very beautifully crafted compared to what we are now. We're kind of a bit shriveled now. And so what happened was, somehow there was a slow falling away of the Watchers, and they came, according to various ancient works, they came before the heavenly tribunal, the heavenly council, many times, or a few times, and they said, "Can we cohabitate with earth women? And we will glorify thy name, and we will uphold your law. May we have permission to do this?" And Yahweh said no. And finally, they couldn't hold back. They made a pact to do it. And so, as it says in Jude, they left their first estate because earth women age. And so after a certain time, when we start to get old, we don't maintain our features. But these angels, now having been injected themselves into the gene pool, have you heard of Shatnas? Has anyone heard of the Torah law of Shatnas?
Yeah.
Shatnas, without mixture, yeah. It is taught in Torah, and this might be one of those little sins that you've never thought about and you might want to start thinking about when we've looked at the Lashon Hara teaching today. You're not to wear a garment of mixed material. Now you can wear cotton pants and some other thing of some other description, but the actual item itself the fabric can't be mixed. Now you can weave different fabric on top of other fabric, but it can't be a fabric that's a mixture of two different fabrics. And it's to teach us that we don't mix the word with impurity, mix our living and our lifestyle with impurity. The food laws are an object lesson, so we're to remember not to mix stuff up and do certain things. It's all part of making us be aware of not diluting Yahweh's word. And what you get into is and what the angels did is they committed shatnez, and they mixed, and we're not allowed to mix. That's why I can't bring my dog and introduce him to you as my wife. Jerry Springer show, they get somebody on the Jerry Springer show and the guy marries his goat, or something like that. You can't mix species. You can't put potato, you can't put fish DNA in potato seeds. That's why we're getting all these problems with diseases and things, because our food is actually becoming contaminated.
GMO.
Not becoming, it is.
GMO.
What's that?
GMO.
GMO, is that it? Yeah. Genetic modification. And so we've got to, that's why, if you're in the tribe of Dan, you can't marry somebody from the tribe of Naphtali. Did you know that? No, you can't. You've got to marry somebody from the tribe of Dan. Did you know that? You can't. So even within the community of faith, you've got to keep with who you're with, yeah? That's why in royalty, you'd never marry outside the royal line, because you'll dilute, you'll mix it with the common. And we're not to mix with common, with what is common. We are set apart. As soon as you drop a drop of cyanide, if I went and grabbed a jug of water or drink or whatever we've got today, and I drop a drop of cyanide in it, that wouldn't hurt a flea, but I actually really did it, and said, listen everybody, one of these jugs has got cyanide in them, nobody's going to drink it. And well, you shouldn't. Even though it's a negligible amount, it's not going to do anything. Nobody should drink it. That's exactly the same as how we should live. So yeah, are there any more questions? No more questions? I'll just have a quick look on the broadcast, because I think this has generated a bit of discussion, so I want to see if there's any questions on here. Thank you very much for coming out, those of you that are here. Those of you that are online, I'll just have a quick look. Oh, we've got no viewers. Okay, that's correct.
Quite interesting.